What's up guys, today we're going to be going over the Microcosm. I've heard this thing kind of cooks, so in this video we're going to be seeing if that is true or not, breaking down exactly how this weapon works and its DPS numbers and all that good stuff, and comparing it to some of the best things in the game, and just seeing how good it is. So looking at this weapon, it's going to be a heavy trace rifle that is a kinetic, and the exotic perk says fires a beam of kinetic light, dealing massive bonus damage to shields. Then the secondary perk, final blows with this weapon grants super energy. This weapon gains bonus damage once your super expires. So jumping into the game, it feels really weird to pull out your heavy and there's this no elemental symbol next to it. Not only first heavy trace rifle, but also first heavy kinetic, if I'm not mistaken. And look at damage for shields, it hits for over 10,000 on this wizard. It's kind of hard to figure out exactly what the increase is because there are no other heavy trace rifles in the game. But comparing it to a on element trace rifle in the special slot, this one hits for 8,000, so roughly the Microcosm was a 25% increase to shield damage, and obviously way better than non-matching. Overall, it feels like just a little bit better than having a matching weapon to the elemental shield, which is pretty nice. The second part of this weapon is, it says it gets super energy on kills, which is like, yeah, that's how guns work, but I believe it's trying to say it's bonus super energy on final blows, and it's kind of hard to visually tell. It does seem like the bar moves more than when I get a kill with like a primary, so I'm not sure exactly how much more it is, but over the grand scheme of getting a lot of kills, it will add up a lot, and you'll just be getting your super a little bit quicker with this weapon. And the final part is the damage increase once you use your super. Without it, it hits for 58.99 on this boss. Go ahead and let my super run out. We get the buff for 20 seconds, which takes the damage up to 7,077. It's going to be a 20% increase for that 20 seconds. Not the biggest increase in the game, but it lasts for a long time and not too bad. Looking at the DPS of this weapon, the max size is 120, which will take forever to shoot off, doing a reload and shooting 2 mags for the 1 mag and 2 mag DPS numbers. That took over 17 seconds, which means the DPS is 106,000, then over 2, almost 100,000. So the reload is extremely fast and doesn't really hinder the DPS that much. But you could also pair this with the Xenotaph mask on Warlock, which will steadily reload your equipped trace rifles from reserves. And doing that, we'll be able to shoot 225 bullets, energy, whatever you want to call it, in a row. And this won't like increase the DPS of like the 1 mag, 2 mag. It will just make it so you have to reload less over the entire reserves of your ammo. So DPS numbers won't change, but over your entire reserves, you will have to reload more likely at least 1 less time, if not 2, which will make your total reserve DPS number a little bit higher because you'll be taking out some reloads. And the total damage of this weapon is actually very high at 3.2 million, which seems high. And we're going to compare it to a few things here in a second. So jumping into those comparisons, the first one would be Whisper of the Worm. Looking at damage of that, is a hit almost 90,000 per bullet. And looking at the DPS and the total reserves, this also has triple tap on it. So generally the Whisper is among the highest total damage output weapon in the game at almost 4 million, and the DPS is 134,000. So DPS is higher and the total is higher. But honestly, the Microcosm isn't that far behind, to be honest. And now moving on to the heavy hitters, first with rockets with bait and switch and wolfpack rounds. Looking at the damage on the boss, the total reserves is 9. And looking at the DPS numbers, with a burst of 2 rockets, then 4 with 2 reloads. There are a lot of builds in the game that you can use to avoid reloading. So the burst number is over 316,000, while with multiple reloads 151,000, still a lot higher than the Microcosm. But the total damage is a lot lower at 2 million. So that is one thing going for the Microcosm and the Whisper. And finally comparing it to the Edge Transit with bait and switch. Looking at the damage on the boss and the total reserves once again. And this time we're going to use Cascade for the 1 mag for like the burst option. Then Envious for the 2 mag, which will require no reloads, where we can get up to 21 in the mag if we wanted. But just shooting off 14, seeing how long it takes. It's going to take right about 6.6 seconds, which means the DPS is once again very high at 293,000, drops off less than the rocket over 2, and has more total damage than the rocket at 2.2 million. And those numbers aren't even taken into account the artifact mod this season, which should take the numbers even closer to that of the rockets. So does Microcosm cook compared to some of the best options in the game? No, the numbers definitely don't say so. And the thing about this weapon is with the state of raids and dungeons having surges on them, this being kinetic, you'll never have a surge active on this weapon. So even if it was close, you're just be down 25% damage in raids and dungeons currently. So I would just never recommend this for raid boss fights or dungeon boss fights. But while I don't think it cooks for boss damage, for general play, I am 100% team this thing cooks. And I don't really understand why, because most of the time I'm not even taking advantage of the 20% buff after the super. And according to the numbers, it shouldn't feel this good. But just doing activities, killing like ultras or high targets or champions, wherever it is, tormentors, subjugators, they just die. Like this thing absolutely fries and cooks just for general play, and it kind of doesn't make sense, and the numbers just don't really add up. So I wonder if this thing has like a damage scaler versus majors and ultras but not versus bosses, because yeah, I just don't get it. It fries, it absolutely cooks. Or it could be that somehow the bonus shield damage is being applied to just regular enemies in some way. I'm not sure, but maybe that explains why things are just getting absolutely deleted. So for a general play weapon, yeah, this thing is insane. And I'll be using this going forward, like on Warlock and possibly Titan, and like the first encounter of the raid, the third encounter, and probably the fourth also. I mean, yeah, it just deletes things. Like, you just click Control-Alt-Delete, and they're just gone. I don't get it. Like, the numbers don't say it's this good, but in practice, it feels that good. And after a contest was done and we were doing loot clears for the new raid, I have used this on the Witness, and it was not good. Like, the numbers weren't terrible, but I was like several million behind my teammates, right? So once again, I would not recommend it for boss fights and raids and dungeons where surges are active. It's not even close to the best options in the game. But for everything outside of boss fights, this is a top tier weapon. It feels incredible. And that leads me to like, where would you want to use this and how, or like on what character and what build? Well, I don't think it really needs a build. As you see in most of the clips, I'm not even taking advantage of the super buff. So you could really just throw this on with anything in the game. Obviously, if you want to take advantage of the 20% buff more often, could use something like Star Eaters on Hunter, or if you're trying to look at the new exotic class items, you could use Star Eater on any character to get the damage increase for the super. Then once it runs out, use this to follow up. But I think the best role possible would be Galanor plus Star Eaters on Hunter. Galanor will give you super energy back on kills and hits, I believe. Then Star Eater will obviously increase the damage of the super. So you would get a higher damage super with Star Eater, then hopefully get a chunk back with Galanor, and then follow up with the Microcosm to finish off whatever you're attacking, and then quickly build back up the next super and do it again. So overall, you could really throw this on with any build in the game, and it's like kind of fixed my issue I'm having in Final Shape, where I just don't find myself using any exotic weapon. I like to use the Call, then I usually use No Hesitation, or maybe like the Raid Bow. And I find myself just using Edge Transit a lot, or maybe a sword for Eager Edge. And I just don't find myself using exotic. And after making this video and like kind of using this in a few different things in the game, I think this will be my exotic choice in a lot of content. And yeah, I think that's be it for the video. Definitely try this weapon out if you haven't, but don't use it in boss fights and raids and dungeons. It's not that good, but for journal play, it can't really be beat. Anyways, like usual, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.